So we're going to read Psalms 5, and this is my first time reading it, so we'll go through this in real time. Can you hear, O God, what I have to say? Do you feel something of what I feel this morning? I know, O God, that you are grieved by the selfishness of your children. The world you created seems to be falling apart. Your creatures are living for themselves alone. They are proud and self-sufficient. They think they don't need you any longer. I also know, O Lord, that I cannot exist without the assurance of your eternal love. Thus I commit myself once more to you and your purposes. Help me to walk in your path for my life. Give me grace to overcome the many obstacles in my way. The philosophies that come out of our world bear little resemblance to the truth you revealed to us. They are subtle and seductive, and men are led astray by forked tongues and suave, soft sell. Enable us to recognize them for what they are: shallow, superficial, ultimately destructive. Those who follow you need not be dismayed. They can sing and dance in the joy of their Lord. You will continue to reveal yourself to them and care for them and work out your purposes in and through them. So, continuing along the similar lines of the previous Psalms, one is looking out into the world at the ways of man, and one is looking at God in prayer. And so there's this contrast between the ways of man and the ways of God, the truth and the lies. And there's definitely this sense of innocence in the tone, this kind of feeling that why are people doing this? One interesting parallel that I think is relatable to today's time is the idea that we have become a tiny bit prideful. We have put science up on a pedestal, and we've in a way worshipped that as our new religion, and we worship the mind as God. Or we even believe ourselves to be God. But this oftentimes is a play of the ego to kind of satisfy itself by feeling in control, by feeling powerful. Sometimes God is even publicly mocked, that people who believe in God are in some way foolish or childish or naive. And what I love about the Psalm so far is that there is this very intimate relationship between the person and God. And there's this reinforcement of this idea of there's nothing that I want but you, God, and help just to keep me focused. Help keep me on the right path. Never leave my presence. May I never leave your presence. There's this common theme of wanting to be separated from the world of man and be united with God. We are no doubt in a time of pride, and so too what we see is mankind destroying the world, destroying the earth. And you may look at things from one perspective or another. You may see it as all a hoax and that human beings are not destroying the planet, and you may believe that, oh, it's very obvious that human beings are destroying the planet. But what has happened is that the more we develop our minds, the more we become identified with the mind, the more we value the mind, the more power we give to the mind, the more we solidify our separation from God, because that is the point of the mind. The way I see it, in the story of Adam and Eve in Genesis, the whole idea of the fall of man came when Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And without getting too much in the details, as far as I can tell, biologically and practically speaking, what happened along the way of our human evolution was that our brains developed the capacity to vibrate at higher brainwave states. When we are in the alpha state or the beta state, we are awake. When we are in the theta state, we are in a dream or in a deep meditation. And when we are in a delta state, we are in complete unconsciousness, a deep sleep. I had an interesting thought the other day. I think I was listening to an audiobook. But there's 2 times in our life where we really become very selfish, very self-centered, and we develop a strong sense of identity. And the first time is around the age of 2, and then the second time is around our teenage years. These are 2 kind of areas in our life where we develop a strong sense of separation, a strong sense of self. And so to me, my hypothesis is that because when we are awake and we are aware, we experience reality as a separate being. You are separate from me. All the objects are separate from one another. But our brains don't fully develop until we're in our 20s. And so from the moment you are born, newborns for instance, their brains operate only in a delta brainwave state. So they are completely at one with their environment. The baby and the mother are one. There is no separation. As the baby's brain develops, slowly it begins to become more powerful. It starts including more and more theta brainwaves. And so young children are always in a constant state of flow. They are still one with their environment, and slowly but surely they begin to become more and more separate, more and more an individual. And so it appears to me that the first time our brains are capable of producing alpha brainwaves is around the age of 2, the terrible 2s, when we begin developing a sense of separation from the environment around us. Now, for a long time after this, we will still mostly produce theta brainwaves. But as the brain develops more and more alpha brainwaves, a more and more sense of individuality. And what you'll find is that not only are children always in a state of flow, but they absorb a lot of energy in the environment. Because unlike adults who exist in a reality of separation, they are at one with the flow of life. They are at one with their environment. Or at the very least, they are merged with it. Children are always in a state of passive learning, which is why it is easy for a child to learn 3 languages, but it's very difficult for an adult to learn just 1 new language. And then it appears to me that sometime around our teenage years, we begin developing the capability for beta brainwaves, where we have our strongest sense of separation, our strongest sense of individuality. What you will find is that many people become atheists during this time, or perhaps may just have trouble with religion, maybe because this is just a rebellious phase. But I see no difference between rebelliousness and a strong sense of self or a strong sense of separation. The reason I mention this is because this provides very powerful insight on the path to becoming one with God. You see, because the truth is we are all born enlightened. That enlightenment is not something that can be achieved. It is in fact the default state. And enlightenment is freedom, it's nirvana, it's entering the kingdom of heaven, it is becoming one with God. In the Bible it is said, "Unless ye come to me as little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." That is because we are born at one with God. When we are around children, we recognize what we have lost. That is the connection to God. And so if we wish to return, we must slow down our brainwaves through meditation, but especially through inner stillness, through silence, through emptiness. If you want a key insight, remember that In the delta state, we are at one with God. And we are in the delta state when we are completely unconscious in deep sleep. And what you will find is that all of the spiritual masters from the beginning of time followed the exact same process to achieve enlightenment, to achieve liberation and freedom. And that process is called dying before you die. Because when we are in a deep unconscious sleep, we are, for all intents and purposes, dead. When you look at a newborn, they have no sense of self-identity. And so long as we are caught in the illusion of personhood, so long as we identify with the mind-body, the mind will siphon our life energy and keep us from the deepest connection with God. And so the pathway to the kingdom of heaven or to freedom is through surrendering to the present moment. Because in the present moment there is no past and there is no future, and therefore there is no food for the identity to feed on. And so the process of the spiritual path is that we continue to get pulled into the illusion, we get triggered, and then we release, we let go of that attachment. Then we get triggered and then we let go. And over however long it takes, we let go more and more of our attachments. And we find ourselves more and more in union with the presence that is experienced in the moment, the presence of God. And so the more we can resonate in this space, the more we align ourselves with the eternal and everlasting life. God is always guiding us back home. God is standing there waiting for us to notice God. And it is only when we stop getting so distracted from the things of the world are we able to begin hearing God's voice, to begin feeling God's pull. So if you wish to be closer to God, all you have to do is ask. All you have to do is look. All you have to do is listen, seek, and you will find.